For many of us, talking about mental health may be uncomfortable or overwhelming, and seeking help can be confusing and intimidating. But it doesn't have to be, especially if you know you're not alone and you have options. This show is not about a pill or a prescription. It's not about finding the solution or pressing an easy button. It's simply a conversation. Let's get started. Welcome. I'm so glad you've decided to join us. Today's topic is dealing with anxiety. Our guests include Dr. Kyle Berkey, Director of Behavioral Health with OSF Healthcare System, Christina Gerlach-Mooney, Director of Mental Health, Residential and Crisis Services with Trillium, Tiffany Jordan, Clinical and Professional Counselor with the Antioch Group, and Chad Nightingale, Licensed Pastor, Certified Counselor, and Church Care Director with Biblical Counseling Ministries. Everyone, welcome so much to Let's Talk Mental Health.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Well, this is just so exciting. We've been working towards this show for quite some time, noting that now more than ever, there's a need in our community and really worldwide to have candid conversations about mental health. Before we dive into the topic on dealing with anxiety, I want to take a moment for us to get to know each other a little bit more, since the purpose of the show is really to equip the community with resources and to kind of remove barriers that might prevent people from accessing care. And the more I was reflecting on this, I was like, sometimes even just the thought of meeting with a counselor for the first time can be really intimidating. And at least for me, the first time that I saw a counselor, it's almost like, well, this isn't a real person. This is someone who has all of the answers. I clearly have none of the answers. So how could I possibly put myself in a vulnerable situation and start to have those conversations? So just for everyone you're all real people, yes?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
All right, so Dr. Berkey, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your approach to treatment with mental health care and wellness.
Yeah, well, first let me say it's an honor to be on this group with such remarkable clinicians. So thank you for having us. This is an important topic. So I am by title a licensed clinical child and adolescent behavioral psychologist, which is a really long, fancy title that basically means I work with children, teenagers, and of course their families to help improve whatever behavioral health challenges they may be experiencing. As a doctor, I tend to be a little bit more directive. I focus a lot on empirically validated research and protocols, and so it's maybe a little less of the talk therapy and more of this is what we're seeing from our evaluation, and these are the things that will really be beneficial for you. And of course, that's going to vary from patient to patient with what their presentation is.
And Dr. Berkey, what are you hoping that audiences will take away from listening into this conversation? Yeah,
it's such an important time for everybody, for behavioral health specifically. So I want this to be a destigmatizing time. I think mental health can be intimidating, as you mentioned, and I just want people to realize that this is something everybody deals with. Whether you seek help or you don't seek help, we all have our own individual challenges, and I hope this empowers people to go and seek help if they need that.
Wonderful. Christina, over to you. You've had a lot of experience with crisis intervention. Let's tell us a little bit more about yourself and your approachment to treatment.
So again, what Kyle said, thank you very much for having us here. I really appreciate just the opportunity to normalize this conversation. By title, I am a licensed clinical social worker as well as a certified addiction drug counselor. In the world of crisis, I think my the part I like about it the most is you get to really help the person in the moment, and you are that entryway to hopefully ongoing conversations. And I really work with my teams and in my own practice about we are that window to recovery, whatever that looks like. And so you meet the client where they are at, and what their struggles are to start that road to things getting better.
So you're seeing folks who may not have taken the initiative to seek out help, but they're in a position where help has found them because of
We
where they're
definitely see them where they this is their first time, where they have other things in place that maybe are not working. And so we really are getting them at truly the most vulnerable of time. And, I try to tell people crisis is in the eye of the beholder. It's going to look different to every single person. And so when they are reaching out, we have to respond. So we really need to meet them where they're at.
Chad Nightingale, you come from a faith-based approach to treating mental health and wellness. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my seminary training is in practical theology. So how does the Bible affect life? And I have certified counselor in biblical counseling. We believe that the Bible is a supernatural book that the Lord gave us to direct us in the lives that we live. And we believe that the church shouldn't be shying away from caring for people when they're going through these difficult times. So myself, our organization, we train people to engage with biblical counseling. We teach them how to care for one another, and then we train some of their counselors and help some of their people become certified and things like that, so that the church is equipped to handle much of the stuff that happens in normal life with their people. And then we offer the counseling free, because we say the Bible is free, so the counseling should be free.
Yeah, so you're catching people that might otherwise not be seeking help outside of the church.
Yeah, and we're actually hoping that the church is equipped to catch them before they get into a desperate time. So hopefully their Sunday school teachers and their small group leaders, whatever kind of church you're in, those individuals feel competent to walk alongside the people in their groups and care for them before things get too bad.
Fantastic. And Tiffany, one of the things I love about your background is that you worked for years as an educator.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I started my career as a classroom teacher. I taught 7th and 8th grade for about 8 years in District 150. And then I went into full-time private practice, and I've been doing that for about 15 years. There's some coaching and some other teaching in there. So I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor and a certified alcohol and drug counselor. And I say teenagers are my jam, and they still are. So one of the things that I get to do is, I think one of the most important things is developing that therapeutic relationship, because that's so critical, especially when you're dealing with a teenager, because a lot of times during that stage, they start to pull away from the adults in their life. So one of the things I always tell them is I'm not just going to be another adult in your life trying to tell you what to do. I'm here as part of your support system. And I give them probably the gift of listening and validating feelings, which oftentimes teenagers don't always get, and they're dealing with big thoughts, big feelings, and big demands. And so that's one of the best parts of my job. I get to work with that population.
Well, thank you in advance, because my kids are not teenagers yet, but they will be in a couple of years, so I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Well, I got a couch for them if they need it.
There we go. So as we're diving into today's topic on dealing with anxiety, we're really going to be navigating this conversation in 3 different sections. The first is going to be talking about just understanding what it is. Next, we'll go into causes and triggers, and then we'll end up with managing anxiety. And I want to pause and just underscore, as you all know, the questions that I'm going to be posturing all reflect real questions that you have vetted from clients and from people over the years. So these are real questions that come from real people, and hoping to provide some real sense of hope for all of our listeners as we go through. So let's just dive right into this with the fascinating landscape of anxiety. Dr. Berkey, can you walk through a little bit what physically happens inside the body when you start to have that feeling of anxiety?
Yeah, that's a great question, because some people think anxiety is simply a cognitive component, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is there's true physiological changes that happen in the body too. And what we're really talking about is 4 primary changes. So if I get nervous about something, right, the first thing that happens is our muscle tone increases. You're going to see that tightening of the muscle tone. You're going to see an increase in breathing rate or respiration rate. And then you're going to see, they will feel, I should say, the increased heart rate. And then last but not least is the increased body temperature. So you actually get hot and sweaty. So when you're nervous, you have that, sweaty, palm going on. The great news about this is if you realize what physiologically happens in the body and you're more attuned to recognize that, when it starts to happen at lower levels, you can recognize it and start to do something about it. As Chad was mentioning, right, early intervention is the key. Early intervention, what he was mentioning is before there's a crisis, but early intervention, when I first start to notice anxiety rearing its head, if I recognize it, I can do something about it.
Do you often find that some of us, we aren't recognizing anxiety until we're much further down the road of feeling those physical symptoms?
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we talk a little bit more about that, and this might be a question that we don't even think to bring up, but is anxiety a normal part of the human experience? Chad, I'm going to look at you first to dive into this.
Well, I would say anxiety is a helpful thing when it prevents us from doing something that we shouldn't be doing. And anxiety then sometimes interferes with life, and there has to be a delineation between the two, because some things we do are dangerous, and there should be some fears or anxieties about that, but some things we know that they're not actually as dangerous as we're making them, and they're stopping, the anxiety is stopping us from doing that thing.
Yes, that's fascinating. I hadn't thought about anxiety as being a friend in some instances that can pull you back from making a poor decision.
Well, it also creates a need to prepare. Like if you have not prepared yourself for a situation, you're going to have more anxiety about that. So you prepare so that you won't have the anxiety. So it can be a helpful thing. It just has to be utilized in the right way, and it has to be managed, as Dr. Berkey said. It's when it's unmanaged that it becomes a problem.
Is there a sense, Tiffany, with some of the young people that you see who feel like the anxiety that they are dealing with is something that they can't talk about with their peers or with their friends? How do they explain their struggles to people that might be part of their support network?
Yes, oftentimes when like a teenager is talking to their friends, they will talk about being anxious. I don't know how much detail they actually go into about their anxiety. They probably talk less to us as adults about it. But they'll say, you know what, I'm feeling anxiety. And a lot of times when they're describing it, it is pretty intense, overwhelming, and it literally prevents them from doing things that they either would want to do or really need to be able to do. And it could cause a lot of avoidance, especially with like social anxiety. I see it a lot with teenagers and even adults. And again, it gets in the way. And so they'll talk to each other about a lot of things, and sometimes anxiety can even become that thing that gets you into a group. We're all anxious and we're kind of battling this together.
Okay, is that something that you've seen more of a kind of an increase of in the last several years with social groups centering around anxiety?
Yes, that among other issues, yes.
So if a young person finds themselves with a group of peers that are just constantly talking about being anxious, how, I know we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but how do you even identify that as a young person and put up some boundaries that could provide some health and wellness for you?
Well, I think learning how to set boundaries around that, you probably need some help to be able to do that, because most teenagers don't naturally do that on their own. You know, we live in this world full of a lot of information that moves pretty quickly, and there's a lot of things that are shared that aren't entirely helpful, and I find teenagers don't always know how to filter that out, so they need us to help them learn how to do that. So yeah, boundaries aren't usually their strong suit, or maybe many people's strong suit, but they're things that can be learned.
Like most things, if we ignore that anxiety exists altogether, right, it's not helpful. Right? If all we focus on is the anxiety, it's not helpful. There's that sweet spot in the middle where I recognize it, identify that this is a thing, this is something that's impacting me, and we talk about it, but without making it the all-encompassing piece of that. And I think that's what she was getting at.
Like your life doesn't need to cycle around your anxiety. So I have to throw this out to everyone, because I thought it was a fascinating movie, but the Pixar movie that came out, Inside Out 2, where there was actually a character named Anxiety, I saw that with my 10-year-old daughter, and first of all, I was very concerned about adolescence coming up, but secondly, I just thought, wow, this is fascinating, a whole character about anxiety, and kind of that picture that anxiety is going to be part of your life. You know, but how to navigate the waters of walking with anxiety. Christine, anything that you want to speak into that on?
A lot of times I refer to anxiety as kind of that yellow light of life. A lot of times people are really good at the red light and the green light, not so good with the yellow light. And so really that anxiety is kind of your body saying, stop and think about your next decisions. And your body, like you were referring to, I mean, I'll give you an example. When I get anxious, my shoulders get really warm. And I didn't figure that out until I was definitely an adult. And really now when I feel that, it's like, okay, what are your next steps? What are you going to do in this decision? And like you had said, sometimes it's like, I'm feeling this because my body is saying you have no business making that choice that you were going to make. And then other times it's like, okay, we're going to get through this and it's going to be great on the other end. And so, but really stopping pausing at the yellow light.
At the yellow light.
You know, it's always fun when you ask kids, what's the yellow light? It's, oh, I go faster. No. No. It's a different conversation with mom and dad. But it always comes up. But really, it's that yellow light. It's that pause that you're allowed to give yourself on what are the next steps I can make.
And Dr. Berkey, going back to what's happening inside, you talked about some of the physical manifestations. Is it a chemical, like eruption that happens inside that causes those physical manifestations? How does that all interface?
So quite honestly, this is still a huge debate, and it's a vigorous debate. So you have a camp of behavioral health that says you have these thoughts that are nervous thoughts, and then the body starts to react. You have a different camp saying, no. You have a physical reaction, and then your brain picks up on the physical reaction and causes, right, the thoughts. And they argue, I mean, really a lot. And the reality is they're both wrong, right? Because it's not just this one, and it's not just this one. We've been working with patients for long enough to know that there are times where they are sitting and stewing in thoughts, and that sitting and perseverating on those thoughts leads to the anxiety. And then there's other individuals that we work with where there's no thought. They just feel anxious. And so depending on which way you are bent, if you're more the cognitive piece or more the physiological piece, it's great information for professionals like us to know, because we can then tailor our interventions based upon the way that you are bent.
I love that you mentioned the thought piece of it and what that plays into it. Funny anecdote, I was talking with my sister about how we were getting ready to film this wonderful show, and she said, what's the topic? And I said, well, it's on dealing with anxiety. And she said, are you anxious about the show? And I thought, well, I wasn't until you said something. You know, but how that kind of, when a seed gets planted, where otherwise you might not even begun, you know, had started down the road of anxiety, sometimes that thought can start to percolate and get in there. So you talked also about kind of these different levels. There are some people that are going to be more struggling with something that just feels physically uncontrollable. How do you differentiate between like normal worry that you run into? We all worry. We all have every day, little things. And the level of anxiety that comes into like a disorder realm or a problematic anxiety, so to say.
Yeah, so I think the simplistic way to answer that is if it interferes with the things you want to do. Mm-hmm. If I worry about driving over the bridge, right? I've had patients that worry about driving over the bridge from in or out of Peoria. If I worry about it and I have to prep myself and I'm like, okay, I can do this, and I go and I do it, and it's uncomfortable, but I get through it and I get to the store, I get to whatever. Maybe we want to talk to somebody, but if I worry about that and I get in my car and the last exit before the bridge, I turn off and I go back home, now we have something that's interfering with my ability to function, and that's when we really need to seek that professional help.
Oh, fantastic. Any other thoughts on that component?
Sometimes it's because bad experience, like you got into a car accident, and now that's always going to be the experience. So they don't want to get into a car because every time I get into a car, it's going to become an accident. And so they begin to lie to themselves that now the car is not safe because this thing happened, instead of, no, the car is actually, it's safe. You drove it 1,000 times before you got into an accident. This only happened once, but that lie permeates in their mind.
That's a perfect segue, Chad, to kind of go into the causes and the triggers. We all know that there are situations where something happens and it maybe isn't a logical response, but boy, your body has this massive physical response to a trigger. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. Tiffany, how do I figure out what's causing my anxiety? Because I often feel anxious for no good reason. So if you logically can't connect the reason, how do you find those triggers?
Yeah, I hear that often, like something happens for no good reason. And I strongly encourage my clients to slow down. Like a lot of the techniques I like to teach are mindfulness techniques where we're aware and present in the moment. And I said, the past is the past, the future isn't here yet. Let's spend most of our time right here. And oftentimes we will say things like that, oh, it just happened, or I don't know why I did that, or, and then we'll move on to the next thing so quickly without actually stopping. So I encourage my clients, let's slow down, let's reflect, let's do some body scans, take some deep breaths, and actually tune into what's happening in our bodies and how that changes as we deep breathe and relax. And so as clients and even conversations about, think about a time when you felt this way. Where did you feel that feeling in your body? Okay, so that's what your anxious feelings feel like. So when that comes on the scene, you know that what you're dealing with is anxiety. And then we can start to address it because, like it's been said, let's get to it when it's small because it's a lot easier than when it gets really big. And so I love to teach clients, like, let's slow it down. A therapist word, let's sit with that. Let's sit with that so we can get as much information as possible. So when we run into that next anxiety producing situation, because it's going to come, then we know how to address it better.
You use the word body scan for that. Can you unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah, body scan is just a simple technique where you take some deep breaths and you literally just shift your attention to different parts of your body and any sensation that you feel there. You don't feel the need to try to change it or do anything with it. You just notice. And what you often notice is, oh, you know what, my leg was a little bit achy. I didn't know that before. Or, you know what, actually I'm hungry. I didn't tune into that before. Or I have a slight headache. Or, you know what, my head actually feels light. Or my shoulders were up here and now I've relaxed and they're down here. We just start to notice those things that we don't always pay attention to.
So this next question for anyone, but kind of piggybacking off of this, is it fair to say that people will hold anxiety in different places of their body?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Part of the body scan, the shoulders, anxiety, I think, lives there, and so when you start teaching people how to recognize that they'll get the validation of, oh yeah. But part of the process is now, how do we treat that? How do we address that? And so as we continually work with people through that therapeutic relationship, how does that feel today? Do you remember how it felt the first time we met and talked? Because progress is obviously a motivator too for dealing and coping and coming up with a different game plan. And so teaching those skills like body scans, mindfulness, really helps in future situations versus, well, what happens if this exact situation happens again? I'm a big proponent in respond to what your body's doing versus a situation. And that helps too with if you were anxious in that situation, well, what happens if your body feels like that again? What can you do the next time your shoulders feel tense or your temples, you can feel your pulse kind of things. And really coming up with solutions based on that versus, well, the next time I'm grounded, this is what I'm going to do. Well, guess what? Even as grown-ups, there's times we feel like we're grounded. So, it's more about what our body is doing.
Does that help individuals kind of take it down a level in terms of what you can and can't control? Noting that so much of anxiety, at least in my life, comes out of a sense of like, well, I don't think I can control this situation that's coming up.
I just think it normalizes it.
And
regardless of what the situation is, you have some control in it. And a lot of times we hear or we feel, I didn't feel like I was in control of the situation. And so let's unpack that, because we can control our response. We can control whether or not we tap our foot. We can control whether or not we're doing a body scan. There are certain things we can still control in that situation.
Wow. So some of these triggers can be really intense, can be trauma related. And for individuals who are in the middle of navigating anxiety that's caused from a trauma-related trigger, what's the first step that you would say to them, Chad, as you're unpacking that?
Well, I'd take them to Matthew, where Jesus says, come to me all who are burdened and heavy laden, and I will give rest to your souls. Place my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And what I believe he's telling them there is, if you'll just slow down, because you think about a yoke, there's a...
it will slow you down.
It will slow you down. Like, you have to walk side by side. You can't do it quickly. And so just slow down and walk with me in the labor of the day and learn from me. And a lot of anxiety is because people are trying to do too many things too quickly, and they just need to slow down and figure out, what things do I actually have to be doing right now, and begin lightening the load a little bit.
I want to add on to that for a second, because there's another verse in the book of Lamentations that says, His mercies are renewed every morning. And I think, and you can finish the rest of the verse for me if you need to, but I think that's a big component of anxiety is I'm not really worried about what I have to do right now. I'm worried about what happened yesterday and how that's going to impact how people look at me today. Oh, and then later today I have a test, and then tomorrow I have to go to this, and then I have tryouts for that. And we're not trying to deal with what's right here. We're trying to deal with yesterday, today, tomorrow, 4 months from now, when I have a trip that I have to go on that I'm worried about. And the reality is, we are designed in such a way that we are given the ability to deal with the things that we need to deal with today. And that's what professionals can certainly help people tap into that strength.
When people have experienced physical trauma, and there's so many things that you can't control what happens in your life, but that physical trauma that may have come out of a car accident or something like that, is there an extra layer of anxiety mitigation that comes into play if you're recovering from an injury or a severe illness or something that's really taken you out of pocket for a while?
Yeah, I think when it comes down to like trauma in general, yes, there is that anxiety that comes there, and it creates like triggers, buttons, things that we're going to be affected by as we move through, space and life, and we can't control those things. But part of trauma treatment is it's not just sitting on someone's couch talking about everything that you went through and replaying that, because that could be traumatizing in and of itself. It is really learning how to feel safe in your body again. It's called resource installation. Like, I mentioned the mindfulness techniques, and there's a lot of other techniques that are used in trauma treatment to learn how to calm the body. And so that's like a place to start. And there's some clients I've worked with who that was what they needed in treatment. They didn't want to go back and relive, and they don't have to.
Yeah.
It was like, let me feel safe in my body again now.
I love
was
that.
enough.
Yeah, feeling safe in your body, and hopefully that also might dispel some myths that, again, a barrier for people seeking care, that it's going to be like, well, gosh, if I go seek a counselor, I'm going to have to relive all of the hard things. So when folks are first approaching you, or when you first have a meeting with them, how are you building confidence that this is not going to be awful?
I always explain that in treatment, we're going to make progress. I don't care how fast the progress is. Progress could be from here to here.
Yeah.
But we're going to make some level of progress. So we're going to follow your lead. We're not going to push you beyond a place that you're capable of.
Yeah.
We might push you beyond where you're comfortable of.
Yeah.
But we won't go beyond where you're capable of.
That's beautiful. I want to talk through a couple of examples that you've all kind of relayed to me from clients, knowing that this kind of spans a wide range of ages. Everyone deals with anxiety and all of this. The first one, teenage girl, anxiety caused through a fear of humiliation. I can't go to school because people will make fun of me. So what would you say, Tiffany, to a young person dealing with that trigger for anxiety?
Well, I mean, that may be true. She may go to school and people may make fun of her. So I'm probably not going to start by saying, oh, that's not going to happen. Because if it does, then now I've set her up. And so I'd start by exploring kind of why she believes that, what's already happened. And I would wonder if she has a support system there. Do we have friends? Do we have people that we can lean on as we're, moving through school, which can be a brutal place and an anxiety-producing place at times. And really get down to those thoughts. It's like, okay, how are you seeing yourself? Because a lot of teenagers, and not just teenagers, it's adults as well, we care about what other people think of us.
Yes.
Okay, so one of my favorite things to say, it's like, okay, well, can we narrow that down so we're not caring about what everybody thinks, but we limit that to a select few people whose opinions actually matter. And those folks should be people that know us, that love us, and actually have, our best interests at heart. And so let's narrow that. All right, and so usually that helps, temper that fear of going into social situations, but I bring it back to what do you think? Where are you? And then also exploring what are they feeding themselves with? We have our eyes and our ears that, are the gates, and they're things we take in information-wise that can flood our hearts. Comparisons play a huge role in that. And so we have to get down to, ultimately what's driving that. A lot of thoughts, that cognitively driven anxiety piece, plays a huge role in that too.
I love that you said it's okay to care a little bit about what a couple people think. That's appropriate and good, but setting up some structure around, not letting that rule your thoughts and your mind. Another scenario from a person, academic failure. So I'm even going back to my college years and thinking about, I'm so glad I never have to do finals ever again in my life, all the anxiety that comes along with that. What if I don't do well on this thesis or this project? Chad, how would you walk someone through that?
Well, I would talk to them about where they are, where they've come to, how they're in that program, how well have you done in that program. If they've done well in the program, you're asking a question, why would it be different now, right? Maybe these professors have been lying. Well, probably not, right? They probably haven't been just handing out A's, So talk about where they've come from, where they've been, the work that they put into it. Have you put your best effort into this? Or did you wait till the last minute and you're throwing this together? What reason do you have for the anxiety about the paper?
I like to explain that part of it depends on what we focus on, right? We live in a society and a culture that is very outcome driven. I have to get the A, I have to be the valedictorian, I have to make this team, I have to get the promotion at the job. And we're so focused on the outcome that we oftentimes forget about the process to get there. And so I talk incessantly about it's process over outcome. So Chad, as you're having that conversation is, did you go to class? Let's start there. Yes, I went to class. Great, good starting point.
Yeah.
Did you take some notes? Have you reviewed the notes? Did you study? Did you do the process in such a way to set yourself up for success? And if you have done those things and I get an A, great. The process works. If I did all those things and I worked as hard as I could and I did my best and I get a B, great. If I get a C, great.
Yeah.
Quick anecdote. I have had my own kiddos succeed incredibly, 100% on a test, and they come home, they're so excited, and I said, I'm sorry, what? And they said, yeah, I got an A. I didn't know you had a test. Oh, I knew, I didn't even study for it. I'm like, okay, I'm not proud of you for not studying and getting an A. I'm sorry, because it's not about the A. It's about setting up the process the right way in order for the outcome to then follow.
Oh my goodness, I'm taking notes as a parent because I think I probably would have been the parent that said, awesome job.
So we would say, did you do these things to the glory of God? Do all things to the glory of God, right? Whatsoever you do. So did you do this to the glory of God? Is this your best effort? Did you put forth the process?
I love that. When we talk about triggers that involve like really scary things that you've come out of, so you're a cancer survivor, or maybe you've survived a traumatic relationship, and there's a fear that might happen again. How do you walk someone through that?
I think that's just the real conversation of recognizing those feelings and how to cope with them in real time. And that's probably one of the biggest things I focus on when I work with people who have been through different traumas, is I can't fix it, so you're never going to have those feelings again. But what I can do is prepare you for when you have those feelings, how you get to a place you want to be. And really, I mean, a lot of it is that trusting relationship where you have a real conversation and they trust you to do the walk with them. I've been a social worker long enough. I remember when we were told to not share parts of our personal lives with our clients. And through, and I will be honest, I've been doing this almost 30 years. Now I share stuff all the time. And it's really a balance of what to share, but I do feel like that helps our clients, our patients, whichever dynamic you want to give them. They've been through some things too, and it gives them hope, and I really, really, really try to stress with anybody, as long as you have the hope that things are going to get better, that you're going to get through the process, that we're going to get through progress, we can get through anything, as long as you keep coming back, even if it's to tell me that I was 110% wrong, then guess what? Now we get to find another solution. Yes. You're still invested as long as you continue to do the walk with me.
I love that. I want to pause too. You're talking about walking with clients, and there's sometimes when maybe there needs to be a changing of the partner who's walking a client through something, because for one reason or the other. Can someone kind of speak to that's permissible? So if someone's going to see a counselor and they're feeling anxiety going to see the counselor, or maybe it's not working, like they can advocate for a change there as well. Yes.
Absolutely. I tell my clients I'm not everybody's flavor, and that's okay. So if we're not connecting and they need something different, that's fine. Sometimes we can even get to a point in treatment where it's time to transition and they need something different than what I can offer. There's also something to be said for like higher level of care. So I treat like substance abuse typically in the adolescent population, and I have to do, I'm constantly assessing, is outpatient appropriate for them? And if not, then I will refer to someone else, or if it's something that I'm simply not truly competent to treat. Then.
So is it safe to say that like if someone needs to break up with their counselor, the counselor's feelings will not be hurt?
No.
Right?
No.
So long as it's for the right reasons, right?
Right,
It's a fit.
Right.
If we're challenging them to do something that we want them to do, and we're like, okay, we'll pause there, and they just can't recover from that. Maybe not the right time to break up, with your counselor, but the reality is, yes, we're not all the right fit for everybody. And I'll take it a step further is, for the most part, we're pretty good generalists. We're good at a lot of different things, but we're specialists in only a finite number of things. And so if I'm not the expert in substance abuse, I would happily refer over and then she can see them for a little while and probably come on back to see me again for the next thing, right? So it's a very collegial group of professionals we have in this area, which is great.
I love that. So we're going to transition into talking a little bit about managing anxiety, which we have kind of throughout the course of this a bit, and keeping it in check. One question, just to get it out there. Can you ever get rid of anxiety, your symptoms with anxiety forever? Is that something that's possible?
No, easy answer. No.
I mean, we live in a world where you get invitations to be anxious about so many things. So it's going to be constantly presented.
Yeah.
Do you find, though, that sometimes in our human nature that individuals are seeking to find, again, like a easy button to press, to put them in a position where they just don't have to even deal with anxiety at all, or to circumvent anxiety?
Sure, it could be called weed, or alcohol, or another substance. All the above.
Yes.
And I would take that a step further, and that's where avoidance comes in. And the reality is, talking about management of anxiety, I'm going to flip it a little bit and say how not to manage anxiety. Don't try to avoid it. Right? If you're a parent of a kiddo who's struggling with anxiety, or the spouse of somebody with anxiety, don't try to take the anxiety away from them. Avoiding the situations that cause anxiety will do nothing but increase the anxiety. The technical term is called the negative reinforcement loop, right? Negative, I'm taking something away, I'm avoiding the situation. Reinforcement, more likely for it to happen. So I have an anxiety-producing stimulus. I have this physiological arousal we talked about earlier. The muscle tone increases, heart rate increases, respiration rate increases, and I attribute this uncomfortable feeling to this anxiety stimulus.
Wow.
And so I want to avoid it at all costs. And if I avoid it, guess what? Naturally, anxiety goes away. It's called the parasympathetic response system. It will come down. And now I say, well, I felt better because I avoided this. No, you felt better because your body did its job. But unfortunately, if I feel better, now the next time that I'm in that situation, I'm going to feel even worse, and I'm going to want to avoid even more, and I'm going to feel even better, and it's a very vicious spiral. So avoidance is a really damaging thing to anxiety. It can make it roll out of control very, very quickly.
So what's the first step at building that relationship with our friend anxiety, where you can start to walk down the path, not avoiding them, maybe looking anxiety in the face and starting to take those baby steps into that direction?
I just think, the first step, the biggest step, is that it's normal. And everybody would say, well, what is normal? But I like how you referenced Inside Out, because, that is really a child that has all those emotions. So if we just start there, that's the baseline, that it's there for everybody, this is how we deal with it. And and we can apply that to many things in our life that everybody has similar struggles with. It's our role to help you navigate that. I don't understand math. I had to get a math tutor. The math tutor helped me navigate math because there was no way I was going to avoid it throughout school. So luckily I found a career where there's not a lot of math.
Yes, love it.
But there's still times I have to do it. And so there are different things, whether it's math, anxiety, school, friendships, moving, where different things are going to come into our lives that we have to figure out how to navigate them.
Yeah, there's something called exposure therapy. You talked about baby steps, how we slowly but surely kind of move up to the main event. Short scenario, I have a 6-year-old. She didn't like going through the car wash. They're with me most of the time. I go to get my car washed, so I'm not going to drop them off at the side and not go through it. It's going to happen. But it really scared her the first time around. So I started off by we washed the car at just a regular bay so she could see how powerful the water was, the soap, how everything worked, and she helped me do it. Then I was like, okay, we're gonna go through. Are you ready? Now, there were some steps in between, but I said, I'm gonna narrate this for you. Okay, that's the soap coming out the side of the car. There's, these are the lights. Okay, these are the, this is how it's wiping it down and spraying it. This is the dryer. Okay, and then eyes were big. We got out, kind of came down, was done. And then it was maybe a little bit after that, she would ask me when we would drive by, hey, are we gonna go get a car wash today? And that was the first time she'd asked me to do that. I was like, well, sure, let's go. We're overdue.
The car's clean, but let's go.
Yeah. And she was ready, and she told me that. But I wouldn't, because I was going to do it anyway at some point in time. I took baby steps to get her to the place where she was okay, because there was no real threat. The car wash wasn't going to harm her. We were in the car.
Yeah, most of us today have talked about or used the term sit with, right? And when it comes to anxiety and it comes to those uncomfortable feelings, instead of avoiding it, right? I want to get out of there right now. Don't do that. Sit with it. Set a goal. I'm going to set a timer on my watch, and I'm gonna sit in this uncomfortable setting for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna go into the social interaction that I'm nervous about with my peers at this party that I'm really worried about. I'm gonna set a timer for half an hour, and after half an hour, now I can leave. Now I'm not avoiding. Now I succeeded. Now I met my goal, and I can leave. And I have self-confidence and self-assuredness that I can handle that. And maybe next time I go for 40 minutes instead of 30 minutes. But it's setting little goals and sitting in that discomfort that's really important.
And I think we have to talk to them about the lie that they're telling themselves. We need to understand so that we can help them overcome that lie. There's a Psalm chapter 3, short synopsis, but King David's son is taking over Israel and has decided that's not enough. I need to kill my dad. And so he's hiding in a cave, and it says, many are rising up against me. Many are saying of my soul, there is no help for you in God. Like God's not even gonna help you. And that's the lie that David has to overcome. And David overcomes it by saying, no. The truth is, the Lord's always been a shield about me. He's been my comforter and the lifter of my head. And so he's able to move forward after that in the Psalm. And so helping them see the lie and go, well, let's talk about what's true. And bringing them back to that truth and giving them a new foundation to live on is so important.
That's well said.
Yeah,
That's incredible. So also, does that truth also play out even outside of like the biblical practice or approach where you have to get a negative thought out, but then you have to replace it with something else, yes?
Oh, absolutely. And to use Dr. Berkey's example, when you're sitting there for 20 minutes in the party, you were too anxious to even walk in the door, you should be doing 20 minutes of self-talk.
Okay.
And pepping yourself up. I mean, we are our own greatest cheerleader.
Oh, I love that.
And we are the only ones that know the words that are going to matter to us. And so you should be giving yourself that self-talk while you're there, kind of like how he was. No, that's not the truth. No, no, that person's not staring at you, or 10 minutes wasn't so bad. I think I can do this. I mean, that's part of the recovery plan in that is, okay, instead of being there for 20 minutes and feeling my watch tick with every second, what can I do during that time period? And the best answer is positive self-talk, to get you through that. Because I'm willing to bet if you do that, at 21 minutes, you're going to be like, oh, it's already 21 minutes, time to go, kind of thing. So
the self-talk, right? We call that thought stopping in a lot of what we do. So you got the cognitive component for sure. But remember, right, underlying a lot of this anxiety is also that physiological piece of it. So there's other skills that we can teach that are going to help bring down that physiological anxiety that we feel as well. So there's a great tool that everybody teaches their patients, right, which is diaphragmatic breathing. It is a way of breathing. The reality is my body cannot be anxious and relaxed at the same time. It's an impossibility. It cannot be two different states at the same time. So if I'm nervous and I'm breathing really fast and my muscles are really tight, if I slow down and I do diaphragmatic breathing, where we're breathing in through our nose.
Oh, can we do it all together?
Let's do
All
it
right,
together.
let's do it. Okay.
We're going to breathe in
Okay.
through our nose for 3 seconds. We're going to breathe out through our mouth for 6 seconds. And you repeat that. And if now, instead of doing a panicked breathing in and out every half second, I'm now doing one full cycle in 9 seconds. My breathing is slower. That's going to slow down the heart rate. I'm going to get more oxygen into my body, which helps my muscle tone relax. And because my heart's slower, my body temperature comes back down. So we can be in that social setting, doing our self-talk and doing the diaphragmatic breathing, and all of a sudden I'm feeling better and physically, and I'm feeling better cognitively and have more confidence, and it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can do if you're in the car or if you're having lunch or whenever, just to pause if you start to recognize those symptoms
Yeah,
coming.
we have kiddos do that during tests, right? We have test anxiety at school. Before you start your test, take a moment, do a couple breaths, and then go about the test.
Boy, I have to say, 45 minutes into our conversation, that felt great. I mean, I feel relaxed.
Somebody should have brought that up 45 minutes ago, right?
Absolutely wonderful. So, Tiffany, you had mentioned kind of talking about the parental role, and that there are times when you're not just managing your anxiety, you're recognizing anxiety in someone that you are caretaking or responsible for. And sometimes is it more difficult to recognize symptoms of anxiety in other people, even than yourself?
Yes, I think it always starts with you. So if you become accustomed to recognizing anxiety, like even in your own body, like my anxiety, I feel it most in my stomach and in my shoulders. Then as I learn how to tune into that, then I can give that gift to my children and to my clients as well. I observe my kids, and I have a 4-year-old, and when she goes into a large, she's more of my introverted, loves connection, but will kind of look at you like, I don't know who you are. So we'll hang on the wings, where my oldest won't do that. She's all in from the beginning. And so it's been said about her that she acts funny. Like and I looked at that and I was like, no, she's anxious. She doesn't know, kind of where to go. She's overwhelmed by a lot of people that she doesn't know. And so I said, hey, you can stay with me, because she'll be pasted to me. And if I didn't have enough wherewithal, or didn't observe my child or know what that looked like, then it would be difficult to actually help her address it. So I think it starts with knowing and understanding what goes on inside of you, and then you can help other folks.
The similar principle of put on your oxygen mask first before you go to help someone else with that as well. As we're kind of nearing the end of our time here, let's talk about resources and treatment options that are available in this community. You all represent a wide variety of different pathways to treatment. So I just kind of like to go round robin. Chad, let's start with you about resources that people can take advantage of.
Well, there's a website called the ACBC, that's a Association of Certified Biblical Counselors, that will point you to a biblical counselor in the area. We work with 6 churches, Lexington, one in Lexington, Pontiac, one in Mackinac, one in Eureka, one in Peoria, one in Pekin. There's free counseling at all of those churches. You just have to reach out to them. So
I love that, and to underscore, that's a free option. So there are opportunities that don't involve any type of cost.
Yeah,
That's great. Christina?
I think the program that I'm most proud of my teams is our Community Crisis Center. And it is down there on Richard Pryor. Phone number is 309-671-8084. I just have to give that. Because within that building, it is really, I feel very strong. It is kind of like the mental health superhero of our program set. And I say that because within that building, we have a medical detox program, a psychiatric crisis stabilization residential program. We have our mobile crisis response team, formerly known as ERS. And then we also have our living room program. And all of those programs are 24/7. You can walk in the door and just say, I need to talk to somebody. Of those programs, I will absolutely tout the living room program as the first step for anybody. That is a program for adults where everybody there is somebody in recovery, whether it is from mental health, substance abuse, or both. But they are really there to say, I have been there, I have done that, I have been you, and I am here to help you. And so it really does help kind of eliminate the anxiety of this person has never been in my shoes. And they do a really good job of just linking people to the services that they need, whether it's another service within the building or our community. But it really takes away that anxiety of, I don't know how to ask for help. You know, I don't know why I'm here. I just need somebody to talk to. All right. And they go back into and it's really set up like a living room. It's recliners, there's a TV, there's snacks. It's just very welcoming.
I love that. And Dr. Berkey.
Yeah, so I think within OSF specifically, we have done a really good job at making healthcare accessible where you get your care. So we have grown over the last several years what is called our embedded behavioral health program. So these are behavioral health therapists that are physically located in the primary care offices. So I go to see my physician. While we're having the discussion, I'm expressing that I've been really anxious lately. There's stuff going on in my marriage or at my office or with my family. That doctor can leave the room, go grab one of my therapists, bring them back in and have that warm handoff, and that patient can leave with an appointment for that therapist before they walk out the door. And when they come for their therapy appointment, they're coming to their doctor's office that they're comfortable in. They know the front office staff. They know the everybody there. It's a great starting point. So I would encourage anybody watching, if you are struggling, a great starting point, whether it's OSF or otherwise, is start with your primary care physician. They're a great opportunity to get information and resources out there. We also have what's called behavioral health navigation, which is a free service for everybody. And if you contact the behavioral health navigation team, they will set you up with a clinician, whether that's OSF or elsewhere. We care about the patients as everybody sitting around this room does. And it doesn't matter to us if you come to us or you go to somebody else. We just truly want what's best for you.
And Tiffany, you're last. You only have about 30 seconds, but any other resources?
So I work at the Antioch Group, so that's a great resource. And I always refer clients to different podcasts and things like that.
Excellent.
So there's a lot of great resources in the community, and we are all of them, or
We're
some
very
of
blessed
them.
in this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chad and Christina, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And Dr. Berkey and Tiffany, what a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Remember, if you're struggling with anxiety, you're not alone, and help is available. You can find a list of the resources discussed during this episode on our website at wtvp.org/mental health. If you like this show or have ideas for future topics, please contact us on Facebook or Instagram. I hope you'll join us for the next conversation.